Welcome to the Greater Culture Podcast, where we have conversations about how to elevate the quality of life through movement, nutrition, recovery, and mindset practices. And welcome to the Greater Culture Podcast with your host, Brad Marshall. Today, very, very excited to be joined by Chase Ingraham. Chase is someone who has been in the health and fitness space, specifically CrossFit, for a number of years now, owner of CrossFit Big D, level 3 trainer, CrossFit seminar staff, and someone who gets to commentate as well with some of the more competitive athletes. So really excited to pick your brain today, Chase, on how we can help folks improve the quality of their life. So thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
Oh, hey, the more we can talk about doing that, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
So Chase, you are someone who's been around the space for a while. You've owned a gym for a number of years now. I'd love to get a little sense of what has that journey been like for you, or how did you come to find yourself as an owner of a gym and someone who's been helping improve people's lives for a number of years now?
It started back 2000. I think 2008 was the first time I stepped into a CrossFit gym. No idea what it was. Just ran into a buddy that I swam with in college. And at the time, he looked better than he had ever looked, and also looked the way that I kind of wanted to look myself. And I asked him, hey, what are you doing? I was like, we're doing CrossFit. I was like, never heard of it, but I'll be there on Monday. And since that day, just like, I don't want to say just like anybody, but unbeknownst to most people, is after the first day, which it was actually Fran, was my first CrossFit workout of all time, is that I didn't come back for like 3 months. I was like, I thought I was in shape. You know, I swam in college, and I was doing triathlons at the time. I was probably about 2 or 3 years out of college at this point. And I felt that, I need to get in shape for this, which is funny to say that out loud now, but you hear that all the time, even to this day. It feels like, I need to be in shape for CrossFit. And then I always dispel the myth. I was like, no, you do CrossFit to get in shape for CrossFit. It's a lifestyle fitness, methodology. I went the other route. And I feel like I base most of the things I do on the mistakes that I made early on. And after about, 6-8 months, I started coaching. And then after coaching, I decided if I were to basically move from the profession that I was doing at the time, which was mechanical engineering, that if I step into this world at all or full on, I will eventually own an affiliate. Like, I'm not coming in here just to be a coach. I'm coming here to learn how to be a coach, to learn the methodology, to basically keep growing my coaching ability, my understanding of CrossFit itself, or as a strength and conditioning program, what that does for other people. And it took about 4 years until I decided to step out on my own. So, at the time I was competing, and I had some minor success there. And even then, at the peak of what I would probably say a very small, quick blip peak of that, I still didn't like branch off on my own to do anything. I just didn't feel like I was ready. And I never felt like I was ready until I finally was like, okay, I have to do something. And I just wanted to be able to do more. So it wasn't a matter of wanted to do something different, or people weren't doing it the way that I wanted it to be done or saw that it should be done. Is I just wanted to be able to do more, to impact more people other than my class. Because I still had an impact as, a gym manager, or if you could call it that. But I still didn't be able to do everything I wanted to do. And so stepping out into affiliate ownership was the next evolution of that. And I think that should always be on the table for any coach at any level. Whether it's, hey, I'm going to coach 2 classes here and just be a part of this community in a bigger way. Or I want to coach 6 to 8 classes. Maybe I'll come on part-time. Maybe I'll come on full-time. Maybe I'll just manage. I would hope that if you are taking steps to do that, other than just like part-time at the gym because you love the people and you want to give back to the community, which all those part-time coaches, the 2 class a weekers, you guys are so valuable as an affiliate owner. Like, we love those coaches. Mm-hmm. But if you want to step in a little further, I would always hope that affiliate ownership, if you want to basically own your own business, because that's what it is first, right? Own your own business to impact more lives, is that it should be on the table, at least in the back of your mind. And so that always was. And I opened up CrossFit Big D back in 2013. Coming up on 10 years in July or August. But, a lot of things have been shifting since like last October, but it was just an ability to, or desire to have more impact on more people directly.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt like that was just the next step. And I just wanted to take more control of that for myself to be able to impact more people.
Yeah. One of the things I think is interesting is, as an athlete, as a swimmer in college, and then finding CrossFit and having a little bit of some competitiveness there, I'd be curious to hear, what did your sort of the way you thought about movement and fitness? Because I always think like athletes is we move and we work out so we can get better at this specific sport. And was that one of the reasons that drew you to CrossFit? And if so, like, did that change then when you're like, as a coach, people show up to class for a whole lot of different reasons other than wanting to have the fastest time or the heaviest weight. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your thought process on how movement played a role in you getting into CrossFit, and then how that led to you coaching as well.
So swimming is a very technique oriented sport. Different than, like, every sport has its own skill set, right? You have to learn how to shoot a basketball. There's a technique to that. You have to learn how to throw a football, run a route, block, defend the block, or get out of every sport has its own sport specific technique, whether it's, team sport or individual sport. Swimming by itself is highly technical. Running has its own technique. Hurdles have their own technique, but I just feel like swimming has a little bit more than most, right? The way your hand enters the water, the way the catch in the front, and how you pull through. And there's 4 different strokes, and then multiple different disciplines and distance and things like so on and so forth. So everything has technique, and in order to maximize your efficiency, better technique is always the best play, unless it's somewhat of a sport where you can kind of get away with different things. And it's like, okay, this technique works best for me. It's not necessarily a one size fits all with any sport, but it was that. But the thing that actually drew me to CrossFit from swimming had nothing to do with the pool. I was a marginal swimmer at best. And I'll just put that out there right now. I started late. I don't think I started swimming year round until I was about 15. I was more of a failed football player because of speed and size and strength. I did not hit puberty until much later in my, high school, college career. Someone say post-college a little bit. And so my mom was a swimmer. And after my first failed year of freshman football, she's like, hey, let's just try something that mom did. Cause dad was a football player. And what I ended up falling in love with was actually the training, either the practice sessions in the pool, because that was my opportunity to go to work. So growing up, I was never the biggest, fastest, strongest, most skilled athlete at all. I had to learn how to practice hard to basically like earn a spot, not on ability, but hard work, right? So what happened on the court or the field or the pool in, say, a game or a swimming wasn't really my strong suit. And usually that's what people get graded on. But I practiced hard. I made sure I wouldn't get outworked. And then outside of the pool, outside of our training, we had what we would call dry lands. So weight training days, circuit training days, stadium runs, long runs in general, things we would do outside of the water. We call them dry lands. That was where I was always my best because it was input, output. If I put in more work, I'm going to get more results. And that is really what transferred more to CrossFit, because I was like, oh, all this is just dry lands. Our sport centers around the practice, the training, right? Instead of a 7,000 meter training day in the pool for a 200 meter race that you really got judged on once or twice a year, it's just the same thing. You just do this faster. So that was where I saw the draw. I was like, oh, the only thing I was good at, which was, quote, practice, is what this is all about. So I was like, I finally found my home in a training session and well as a, quote, sport as well early on.
Yeah. So someone who loves the journey, loves the walking rather than maybe the destination, which helps you to show up more consistently, which is awesome. And you mentioned that, Fran was your first workout and it took you a few months to get back into the gym, but it sounded like it was a pretty short window of time before you realized, I want to start coaching and impacting other people's lives with maybe something that you experienced as well. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that journey of how did you work from, okay, I'm testing this out for myself, maybe finding some enjoyment, to I want to make that transition to coaching and helping other people with it.
Some would say very early on. In fact, my college coach, his wife, Sue, which I got to see her a couple of weeks ago, actually, we had this, we talked about the story I'm about to tell her, but I went to school, I got a degree in engineering and I got a degree in math. And I was like, I'm going to be an engineer. And she would always come up to me. He's like, you're going to be a coach when you grow up. I'm just telling you right now, you're going to be a coach. And she's not too far off because both my parents coached me in multiple sport disciplines growing up. My mom started a swim program in San Antonio years ago that I would help with. And at the age that was appropriate and, probably early teens, I would help her with the swim team coaching. Started off with like 2-year-olds. And it was more like water acclimation. And so I've been coaching a little bit, and I come from a coaching family in a sense. And so that was always really a part of things, was helping other people get better at the thing they want to get better at, whatever discipline it is, because of the way that I grew up in sports and in training, is that I had to learn all of these lessons that, and like, fortunately, my parents imprinted on me early and really did help me grow, or at least be mature enough in measuring success. And is that at the one meet a year where you have to PR to win, or win to feel gratified? Or is it the whole thing leading up to it? We may have not got that 1% piece at the end of the year, but the other 99% were the best you've ever been. And so learning how to do that. And I was like, I always thought it was a way to help someone learn a new sport, or learn a new stroke, or do a faster time in the pool. Always felt good to be able to help someone do that. And I never thought of it. I was like, I just want to see someone else happy, right? To help lead them on a path that I got led on and saw gratification through that. And somehow, some way, Sue was right. And as soon as and that's where I let off, was like dipping your toe in the water. You may be ready to take the next step or not. I don't think there's a one toe in the water approach. You're either in or you're out. And once I stepped in, it was just fast forward from there. And it was almost a natural shift, a big shift, but a natural shift that was probably fate in a way.
Yeah, it's always amazing when people see the best in us, or what we're capable of, even if we don't see it yet. And I feel like that's one of the beauties of being a coach, is you get to see that when they walk in the gym, and you can, have that idea of, if we just, get underneath the surface here, there's so much confidence, there's so much excitement that we can bring out of the athletes. And I think that's what gets us motivated to show up time and time again, is like trying to figure out and identify what's the best in these people that we can bring out. And yeah, CrossFit and movement is one way we do that. But it sounds like that for you helped you get into the deep end and then just keep swimming.
Yeah. And no one recognizes their own abilities by themselves. No one does. Like most of the time when people look in the mirror, they look for all the things that they think is wrong. And that can be the same thing with themselves in how they carry themselves in the office, or carry themselves with their wife or with their children, is that we're always, most of the time, so not self-deprecating, but we're always looking at the things that we could do better, or the things that we don't have, or the things that we're not good at. And that's how we judge ourselves. And so having someone in your life, whether it's a partner or a significant other or a coach, that can help show you the things that you are capable of, at the same time showing you the things that you have gotten better at, and building the path for you. Because oftentimes we're so focused, and this is like I think this is like an old biblical analogy, but it's like, we look at, say you want to build a house. And most of the time when building the house, all you look at is what you still have left to do. It's like, okay, the slab's there, and we have some bricks and some walls, and we've got the wood framing, and it's like, gosh, we still need to drywall this thing. We have to lay the bricks on the outside, and we're missing the windows and there. It's like, hey, why don't you take a look around and see all the things you've currently done? Right? And it's that stacking a brick mentality. It's like, it's so hard to see through the now and the present to judge ourselves and the progress that we've had, because we're so future focused. of what we haven't done, we rarely give ourselves credit for what we have done. I think that's the value of having a coach or a mentor or someone who can see from a 30,000 foot view of what you're doing, who you are, and what you've done, and be able to articulate that to you. Now, maybe not give it to you all at once, right? I'm going to keep the carrot dangling in front of you. However, I was like, hey, guess what? Take a look back. Look how far you've come. Now we still got a ways to go. And so you just dangle that carrot a little bit further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that analogy. And it's fascinating how our brains are wired in such a way that we tend to notice, remember, and give more weight to some of the negative experiences or the things that aren't going so well in our life, that you actually have to be intentional with bringing more optimism and gratitude and noticing some of those things. And sometimes the outside source is where you can go to have that happen. And so you've been doing that for a number of years for folks. And, CrossFit gives us this framework to think about the game of life, essentially, if that's what we're trying to help improve in folks. So I'd love to hear from your perspective, how do you think about the idea of quality of life? Like, people are coming to us because, they want to either make a change or be happy or be more fulfilled, whether it's physically or emotionally or whatever that might be. And with all of the experiences you have, how do you like to think about or frame that for folks of like, what does it mean to like improve the quality of your life or improve your fitness?
So that's a great question. And the important thing to understand is that you frame these questions like, oh, I want to, say the New Year's resolution person, and they come in and you're like, what are your fitness goals? Or what are the things that you wish to change? Or what do you want? And you usually get answers like, I want to lose weight. I want to look lean. I want to get stronger. I want to get a muscle. I want a six pack. I want to this, that, and the other. And those all sound great, but they're surface level and they have no roots to keep them there. And what you need to do is that you need to peel back why they want to get stronger, or peel back why they want to lean out, or peel back why they want to get healthy. And those are the things that you need. Like, you got to find the root of the reason that they think they're coming in. So for an example, I trained this 84 going on 85-year-old woman. Her son was a member of my gym, or is a member. And we sat down and I was like, okay, what brought you in here other than your son forcing you? Because usually that happens, right? The husband forces the wife, or the kids force the dad, or the friends shame the other friends, as we all do at the at the bar or at the the local soccer game or whatever we have. And she's like, well, I feel like I need to get a little stronger. I was like, okay, well, what does that mean to an 85-year-old woman? Right. And this is a generation of women that were told you should never be strong. Like, you should never do this. You should never do a pull-up, a push-up. Women don't lift weights. Women don't have muscle. And so we like those vague, like cookie cutter reasons will not keep someone showing up for class, will not make them wake up at 4:30 for the 5 a.m. because it's the only time they can work out, because they have a life that they have to live after that. It's the root of the reason that they gave you the vague answer, because they only know the vague answer. You have to guide them to why they said that to begin with. So in this situation, I was like, okay, why? She's like, well, I'm getting older and I feel like, things are getting a little bit harder. I was like, okay, so, but like, what moment in time did you realize you need to get stronger? And we did this dance. We did this dance. And then finally she goes, I've been riding horses my whole life. And last summer was the first time someone had to help me onto the horse. I was like, that's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. You don't want to have to rely on other people to do something you've been doing your entire life. Now, eventually that catches up to all of us. However, the reason why you came in here is because something happened to you that either frustrated you, embarrassed you, scared you, or on the flip side, excited you, right? Intrigued you. And you got to find that. If you want to get back on the horse by yourself again, understanding that's why you need to come work out 3 times a week will get you into the door more often than saying, I just need to get stronger, because you don't have a reason attached to why. And so finding those things out with each individual in your gym that walks in for their 30-minute free non-sweat intro, I just want to get in shape. You got to find a reason that's going to root them in the gym. And that it will be the thing that they have to lean on to keep them motivated, because just losing weight is not going to keep them motivated, because it's not going to happen right away. Just getting stronger is not going to keep them motivated, because it's not going to happen. It's going to take time. And so you need to find a good reason to keep them there without having to be on top of them the entire time.
Tapping into the bigger purpose or the why for folks is such a strong intrinsic motivator of like, that's where we can actually derive so much energy and consistency from, because it feels like it's in alignment with who I am, where I'd like to go, and the person I'd like to be. And that's that next level coaching. Is funny. Recently was chatting with Adrian, similar concept that came up of peeling back layers to figure out your athletes, to figure out what motivates them and how you can coach them best, regardless of whether it's a performance athlete or a lifestyle athlete. Right. And with that being such a higher skill set for coaching, I'd love to hear, how did you go about learning to have those conversations, or how did you build that skill set? Because, I think we go to the L1 and you get to learn all about the foundations and the methodology of CrossFit, and you learn how to coach movement, and you learn how to really help to showcase that for folks. But those skills that you just highlighted are the ones that really set coaches apart. And so I'd love to hear, is there a way that you came to either understand or experience that, or how you built that skill set of like asking the next question, because you knew that was maybe even more important than how I can teach you how to squat?
So it honestly came from listening to a conversation just like this. Right? Listening to someone, it was probably a podcast. I couldn't even tell you who it was. And it was talking exactly about what we were just talking about. And that was the epiphany. It's like, oh, okay. Well, okay. Now how do you get there? How do you develop that skill set? Well, just like any skill, you got to practice, right? Practice in person or listen and learn. And the cool thing about being on seminar staff, I think it was about 7 years I was on seminar staff, is that I got to be in the presence of the world's greatest trainers. People that just have been there since the beginning, or those that learn from those that were there from the beginning. And 5 or 6 of us that all had various backgrounds and abilities and skill sets and strengths and weaknesses. And we got to see that play out on a weekend level 2 or 3 times a week for years. And then we would do these trainer summits where all the trainers around the world would come together, and we'd have breakout groups and breakout sessions and honing skills and just going back through the level 1. It's like, no one is too good for the level 1. No one is. It's like saying you're too good for an air squat. It's not possible. It's the foundation for everything that we do. And it's part of the nature of CrossFit to begin with. I mean, Greg Lasso said, as soon as you feel like you've mastered it, like, go back to the basics. I just retook my level 1 this past weekend. Why? I didn't need to do it. I wanted to do it. And I want to recycle basically like my CrossFit certifications. I've been doing this for 15 years. At no point in time in these 15 years do I feel like I've made it. In fact, I'm constantly feel like I'm falling behind the times. And I was like, you know what I would like to do? And I did it in the online one. I've taken the level 1. I've taught the level 1. Now I'm saying I don't need to go back to it, but I want to experience something different to be able to articulate that to other people. And it was such a different, unique experience, and I really enjoyed it. And so going and having those conversations, there's no one in this world that was great at something that was just great at it. Everybody had to be bad. Everybody had to be clueless. Everybody had to be lost and confused when they first started. And I think the problem is people feel like if they don't know everything, then they don't belong in the conversation. That's not it. No one belongs in this conversation more than the person that doesn't know anything about it. I think people just scare themselves out of not knowing something. They believe that they shouldn't be a part of that. So how do you develop that skill? Practice, immersion, having those conversations with other people, listening to podcasts like this and hearing other people talk about, like, there's so much out there for people to understand, is that if you don't understand it at all, then you should be diving headlong into it, just like our training methodology. So it all works together, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think what you highlighted there was the desire and the care to want to take that next step of, okay, I've got some of the education and it's formal and I've got a certificate that says, I'm a trainer. Okay, what do I want to go add on to this that allows me to excel and really make an impact in people's lives? Because we realize that it's not just this bubble of an hour of class makes everything else in my life significantly better. I wish that were the case, but you start to realize that those deeper conversations, the connection you can have with people, moves the needle, gets them to keep coming back in, gets them to trust you, but then also allows for some of those conversations where now we can actually help you improve the quality of your life, because maybe there's stuff going on outside of just movement or fitness. Yeah. And I'm imagining over 10 years of having some of those conversations and being in an affiliate, maybe there's some practices or things that you've learned or come across that you're like, you know what, for me, these were some of the biggest trends, some of the biggest learnings that I've had that have impacted you as a coach and how you show up now compared to maybe how you showed up 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So mine all stem from making really, I don't want to say bad mistakes, but big mistakes. Mm. And it all centered around assuming something versus trying to figure out the root or the reason of why something is happening. So I'll give two examples. One example was every coach has this athlete in their gym who is either always late, always talks, never listens, and then after the workout description comes to you afterwards, even though it was 10 minutes long, and asks you to repeat what you had just said. And this person was that person, and everybody knew they were that person, and we're getting really tired of that person. And this is early on in my career as a coach, and I had not yet learned the valuable skill of patience, understanding, and what I like to be call is to the ability to become a coaching chameleon. And I was like, if this person asks me, I'm that's it, I'm done. And of course, it's over. They come up to me, ask me, and I was like, you know what? If you would actually show up on time and listen to what we're saying during the whiteboard lecture, maybe you would understand what is going on. And they left in tears. Come to find out, their father had passed away like the day before, right? And they were coming there for escape. Now, that being said, is that on me to know that? Not necessarily. They're not a really like consistent person and not someone I kept a lot of tabs on. The point is that you never know what someone is going through. Ever, regardless of the face they put on and the front they give everybody else. Everyone has something going on, whether it's good or bad. And you need to be able to obviously not be perfect in this situation, right? Maybe I was having a bad day. The example is you should know about everything all your athletes. The lesson is you never know what everyone else is going through. So make sure that you're at least having the time and patience to understand where people are coming from the second they step into the gym. I would have meetings with team members that I work with CrossFit now. And if we ever had a big meeting, we would open the meeting with 2 words of how you're showing up to the meeting. 2. So you got to be very concise. And it's like happy, grateful, frustrated, sad, lost and confused. And it gave you context to how people are coming into the conversation, right? You don't know other people's stories, and not just like life story, day story. And so the other example is there was a guy doing box step-ups who had no reason to be doing box step-ups, who were doing box jumps. And I was telling him across the room, is like, hey, it's a jump. Hey, it's a jump. And then finally it's like he was ignoring me. And I lost my temper from a coaching perspective. And I was like, what the F are you doing? It's box jumps. And he's like, I hurt my back. I can't do a jump. I'm like, well, what? Okay. And it wasn't like, why didn't you tell me? It's like, why didn't you investigate that before? They're like, does anybody have any injuries? And it would have cleared up everything to begin with. And so having more empathy and understanding where people are coming from, I think is a big thing. And, when I talked about being a coaching chameleon, is that being able to understand your athletes on a personal level, and understanding is like, Sarah likes to be coached like this. John likes to be coached like this. Mark really doesn't like it when you coach him at all. And understanding all those people takes practice. It is a skill, but it also requires you to dig in personally to each of your athletes and members. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, how does she or he like to be drilled or coached? Like, I don't know. I was like, well, maybe you should figure that out. Right? Everyone has a different personality. Everyone has a different reason to be there. And everybody has a different thing going on, different than they had the day before. And your job as a coach is not just to teach people how to do an air squat. That's not what a CrossFit gym is about, right? It's called a community for a reason. And it's not because these people like to hang out together. They wear the same shirts and they all sweat. That is not what defines a community. Defines a community is your ability to understand every single person and individual that is in that group. That's community. Community is togetherness. It's not we're next to each other togetherness. It's like we understand each other togetherness. And so as a coach, you have to figure that out. And I think the more you dig in and like that creates a relationship, a bond, right? A community of people working together for all different reasons, right? This isn't cult community, even though we're cultish community. Cult community is like one thing only. The common is coming, right? CrossFit community is like, we're all trying to improve our health and fitness, but it's so far beyond that. And the reaches and the benefits of doing CrossFit in a CrossFit affiliate stretches well beyond the physical. There's the mental, there's the emotional, there's the lifestyle, there's everything. The way I discipline myself in the gym gives me the strength and discipline to do hard things outside the gym. The ego check I get in the gym helps me check myself when I get outside the gym, whether it's at my job, with my coworkers, with those that work underneath me, with those that work above me. Right? And I think there's just so much that comes from that is so outside the realm of weights and push-ups and running. That's a long answer. I'm sorry.
There's so many threads there that I want to pull on because a few of the things that you said was, one, the empathy and care for each individual, why they're showing up, how they like to be coached, how they like to be interacted with is so critical. And I think as young coaches, you can step into a space and just say, I've got the methodology. I know my points of performance. I'm going to hammer them. You are going to do these movements to standard. And then they got people who are like, I have no idea what a point of performance is, and I don't really care to move to standard.
They don't care.
And so, right. So you're trying to balance that. And then the other thing you said there at the end that really resonated is how much we can benefit in the things outside of just improving our strength and cardiorespiratory endurance and balance and coordination, but the confidence to go do things outside the gym, the belief that I can accomplish hard things. And I'm curious to pull on that thread because I think that is so pivotal for folks is there's all these sort of underlying secret learnings they're having, not just with the physical changes and improving some of those characteristics of fitness, but they're all of a sudden noticing, wow, I am a little more confident in the way I show up. And I feel like I've got a better belief. And I talk to myself a little bit more effectively than maybe I used to. Are there ways in which you've come to either more systematically or deliberately coach and encourage and build those skills in folks? Or how do you help them realize that's taking place? Because similar to what we said earlier, that, you know, when people come to us and they want to notice a change or a difference, like it's subtle. And as a coach, it's sometimes our job to pull it out and notice it and find it. So are there ways in which you've done that with some of those skill sets people build outside of just the 10 general physical characteristics?
Your gym and that class and that hour should be the safest place for your individuals. They should feel safe to be themselves, safe to express themselves, safe to fail. And I think most things in society feel the exact opposite of that. And mostly is creating a safe place to fail. You should feel so comfortable with failing in front of your colleagues or failing in front of your friends or failing in front of your coaches or fellow athletes in a CrossFit gym is that it's not actually that. And that's the thing I'll always lead with any workout for the day. The fact that you guys are here in front of this whiteboard right now, you won. You cannot fail. You did the hardest thing you could possibly do, and that's walk into the doors and put yourself in front of this whiteboard next to these 10 or 12 people and put yourself out there in front of the whiteboard with these 10 or 12 people. You cannot fail. You may not do as well as you wanted to do. You may not PR'd this today. You may have gotten last or time capped or couldn't do that one skill that you've been working on so long and thought you could do it today. And you cannot fail. And even if you were to, quote, fail in however you judge yourself, and again, failure is individualized. From a coach, it's like there is no, like you've learned a lesson today. Like you learn more out of failure than you do with success. Like failure is the catalyst to success. Success often is the detriment to that. It's like, oh, I did it. I made it. I was like, there is no making it. Life is Tetris. You can't win Tetris. It just gets faster and harder. And then eventually everybody fails. And then you try it again. And in Tetris, you don't get to start over at level 69 again. You have to start over at 1. All right, here we go again. Here we go again. Here we go again. And that's CrossFit. CrossFit is Tetris. There's no point in time where he's like, this is as strong as I ever want to be. This is as fast as I ever want to row. This is the most metabolically conditioned that I care to be. It's like, that's not a thing. And as we get older, it's definitely not a thing. He's like, yeah, that will be the most you ever get. So now how do you judge it? Right? And what it is making sure you ensure that your space is a safe space to fail and that failure is celebrated. Success is expected. It is. If you walk into this gym and you come 3 to 5 times a week and you do half the things we tell you to do, 10% of the things we tell you to do outside the gym, you will succeed. I expect you to do that. The only way you get there is you have to put yourself through fail. Like you can't go into a gym and expect to succeed every day and get any success, because if you are succeeding every day, you are limiting yourself in how you approach things. Your bar is too low. And that coach is setting the bar too low too. And so what you have to be able to do is get yourself in a relationship with an athlete that you can push them to failure and they'll still trust you afterwards. That's the big one. Pushing your athlete to success and them succeeding, of course they're going to trust you. That's expected. That's easy. Can you develop a relationship with your athlete or athletes or coaches or friends in that you can push them to failure and them still trust you going forward? And that's all about the environment you've created, because it's not failure. You just learned something new, which is the first step to succeeding.
Mm-hmm. Is really this idea of building capacity and our capacity to handle adversity and challenges and not knowing or being able to do something the way we'd like. And those are some of my favorite moments in the gym is, I mean, we're trying to have people do movements that they never even fathomed, taking a barbell and putting it overhead, sometimes catching it in a squat position, taking a pull-up bar and trying to get on top of it. And they're attempting it. And when coaches get almost more excited for how close they get of like, that was so much better than your last attempt. And they're just like, I still didn't get it. And you're like, but you don't realize how much better that was.
Yeah.
And so then they get excited and they're like, oh, like, let's stay in it and let's keep working towards it. And so as a coach, like sometimes you do have to bring that out because you can get beat down pretty consistently in CrossFit. And so mentally, it can be tough to want to keep getting up of like, I've been practicing for 3 years to get a strict pull up or a muscle up, and I still haven't done it. And it's in those moments as a coach that it's even more important to like, okay, we got to focus on the why, but then keep working towards, you know, an outcome that doesn't exist, but we're practicing along the way with that journey.
Yeah. It's just, I think creating a safe space for failure, but always teaching them why it's a success.
Mm-hmm. I had this,
so tough to do.
Yeah, I had this concept. Somebody said something recently that really resonated with me. And it's this idea of low expectations and high standards. And it really resonated with me because of this idea of like expectations can taint so many things that, you know, I should do this or I need to do this or whatever it might be. And if we have all these expectations, it's very easy to get demoralized or upset or frustrated. Whereas if we release on some of the expectations, but have a very strong emphasis on our standards of just like the effort, the attitude, the way in which I'm coming in, like that's what I'm going to put all my attention and energy into. That's going to help us stay the journey and stay the course longer than just like having the expectation of I need to or I should be able to do something. So it sounds kind of like what you're talking about there of like these standards are going to be really high and we're going to hold you to those standards as a coach, but we don't expect that you maybe ever get a muscle up, but we're going to love the journey to see if we can.
Yeah. I like that a lot. That's good.
So one of the things that I'm kind of curious of from your perspective too, because you're somebody who gets to commentate a lot. So you get to see fitness at the highest level.
Yeah.
How do you think about or balance this idea of performance? And, you know, there's aspirations in competing with, I just want to be fitter and I just want to be able to get on the horse without somebody's help and support. Because I think sometimes, you know, myself included, I've gotten in the mix of like, well, if I can't clean and jerk or snatch or do something performance related, that I'm not fit, it's not working, or I'm not progressing fast enough. And I find sometimes that conversation can be challenging with athletes of like finding that balance of like, hey, it's fun to compete, do qualifiers, do the open. And there's also this idea of like, you have plenty of fitness for your life and it's okay if you don't hit a certain weight or do a certain movement. So how do you think about and balance like those two worlds of performance and, you know, just general health and wellness?
I think for the majority of athletes is, say we're talking CrossFit Games versus what happens every day in the affiliate. Watching what happens at the CrossFit Games as a level of what people are capable of, I think is really cool. For the same reason why if you were to watch the Olympics and see someone run the 800 meter, like, is that going to keep you from wanting to go out for a jog on a Saturday? I hope not. Right? Or football, and I'm going to play touch football with my friends in the backyard, or join the local football league and intramural sports. And like, it's all inspiration based. And I believe that's truly where the difference between CrossFit as the game, CrossFit Games as the sport versus CrossFit for everything else we do. We're talking about the 0.001% of people who do CrossFit that are in, say, semifinals and CrossFit Games. And that is a level of inspiration from what is human performance really look like at its peak. And I think we can marvel at that as those who do CrossFit. And hopefully we can teach other people to marvel at that who don't do CrossFit. But that's not what we do in the gym. Now, what they do to get there, right? It's varying degrees, not kind. And we'll say that in the level 1. And so the dedication that these athletes have to get what they want should be approached the same to get what you want. You're not going to do the same thing. But if this is truly what you really want, and this is truly what you care about, and as we dig deep into the root of your why, well, it's the same process. Showing up. It's showing up, and it's showing up when you don't want to show up. And it's showing up when you are burnt out or sad or you feel like life is in the way, is being able to understand. And I think that's where those that watch something like the Games that have been doing CrossFit for enough time can recognize that that variance of difference of being on the floor in the Coliseum versus in the stands in the Coliseum is just by a degree. Like, they want this, right? They want this physical dominance in CrossFit, whereas I just want competence. I want to be able to do anything I want to do in my life at any point in time. I want to be able to say yes to everything. Hey, do you want it? Yeah. Doesn't even matter what it is. I'm fully capable of doing it. I may not be good at it. I'm not going to be good at this week-long mountain hike. Not what I do all the time, but I will be physically capable of doing that, or move a friend out of their apartment, or pick up my kids, or play basketball, or whatever it is that life demands of me. I will be able to do that. And that's physical competence. physical dominance is just as specialized as anything else is. Right? And that's the rub. Not so much in CrossFit as a sport, but I think we can all recognize the effort, the dedication, and the discipline that goes into that. And so from a fan's perspective, like, you can enjoy that. Now, for the everyday CrossFit that comes in your gym, right? Having the difference between the two is I really don't think there's that much of a difference. And people will say all the time, it's like, oh, well, CrossFit Games is ruining people's idea of CrossFit. It's like, well, who told you that? I understand it's out there, and maybe things got lost along the way, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, but like, it's not it. It's not the case. In fact, we celebrate things that happen in our affiliate, in your gym. Like you said, I'll celebrate your almost bar muscle up. Then I will someone winning the CrossFit Games. And that's really where the difference is. The celebration and the success is so much more personal. And it's so much more impactful to the people around you. Watching someone get their first pull-up in the gym, or losing 100 pounds, or being able to run for the first time, those members in the gym are going to be impacted by that tenfold, without getting hyperbolic, than seeing someone do 30 ring muscle-ups unbroken in the CrossFit Games. But we can still celebrate both and respect the process for both. And I think that's where the marriage is between the two.
Yeah, I think the connection there that you highlighted, the celebration of what's possible from an individual walking into your gym to somebody who's been dedicating their livelihood to expressing fitness at the highest level, the celebration, the excitement can be very similar. You know, the methodology to get you there is very similar. So there's probably a lot more similarities than differences. And I'm curious, you know, as someone who's been able to coach in the gym, someone who's been able to watch at the highest level, you know, if there's certain traits or characteristics, tendencies you've seen emerge from people who've been able to stay consistent in the gym, people who've been able to achieve and demonstrate at the highest level what's possible. Are there certain traits or characteristics that stand out to you, or that you've seen be really special in individuals who've maybe hit 1,000, 2,000 classes, folks you've met and interacted with who've made it, you know, to semifinals or the games, that you're like, you know, these are some of those common core traits and tendencies that I think we all could learn from and implement into our lives?
The line I like to use in thinking about that question is usually the line you'll ask, or the question you'll ask old athletes on the fringe of retirement. And usually they'll say, as soon as I stop having fun, that's when I'm going to hang it up. That also exists in the CrossFit gym, right? And as soon as people stop having fun, it's really hard to keep them around. And you see that in the sport. Now, people are motivated by different things, I would say, at the highest level. And that goes for all professional athletes. Some people want to become a professional athlete because they want to be popular. Some people want to become a professional athlete because they want to make money. Some people want to be a professional athlete because they just want to be a professional athlete. I just want to go to the Olympics. I don't want to win it. I just want the rings on my chest, or whatever. Like, everyone is intrinsically motivated in different ways. But if you break it down to the CrossFit gym and the community, if they're not having fun, it's really not going to keep them around. And if they're not having fun, it's hard to do tough things. If they're not having fun, it's nearly impossible to convince someone, again, as we circle back to this, to put themselves in a position to fail. If I'm already not enjoying myself, why would I make myself feel worse by not being able to do a bar muscle up today? I just won't try it. If I don't try it, I won't get upset. I won't be any happier, but I won't feel worse. And so that thread from the CrossFit Games athlete to the soccer mom that comes in 2 times a week because someone forced her to, is that you still need to make it fun. Right? And fun doesn't outweigh any of it. It doesn't mean you have to be a comedian in the class, or like a jester. It's like, or manufacturers, like, just enjoy yourselves. Like this is supposed to be the best hour of your day. You can't, everybody comes in, like I said, everybody comes in with a different story every day. How can we make this fun? How can we make it fun to be here? How can we make it fun to hurt? How can we make it fun to fail? And if you make it fun to all those things, it makes it easier to convince someone to do something they don't think they're capable of. And that sounds silly. It's like, just make it fun. It's beyond that. But I think that is a really, it's the one thread I could really put between the two.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Barring exceptions, but
yeah, it's fascinating because that response is something that I don't think I anticipated, but it makes so much sense because I heard something recently too that says like he who has the most fun wins. And it's with anything. And as I was thinking about that, like you can see the joy that these athletes get from giving it their all. And like that for some of them is enough. Like, did I give everything I have on this field? Like I've got a smile on my face after just having one of the most challenging workouts. Or in the gym when you've just done Fran and you're laying on the floor for a little bit and then all of a sudden everybody's high-fiving and smiling and you're like, how did you just make that transition? You're finding intentional ways to bring fun and enjoyment into what you're doing. And if you enjoy what you do, if you're having fun, you're going to stick it out. There's going to be a higher level of consistency. You're going to be in it for the long haul. So I'm maybe curious then for you, where do you find fun currently as owner, as athlete, as commentator? I mean, you've been in the sport for a long time, so obviously there's been some fun along the way. Is there something that stands out to you of like, this is how I still am having fun with CrossFit?
I seek my fun in other people's success, but I seek it more in other people's failure. Like, it's just fun watching people go for it. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what the outcome is, but it's fun watching people break out of a comfort zone. Mm-hmm. It's fun watching someone do something they didn't think was possible. It's fun watching someone succeed. And I'm not saying it's fun to watch someone fail, but it's fun to watch someone fail in a sense of if they did something they never either normally do or have ever done, right? Like that's fun. From the broadcasting side, it's fun to watch these athletes just like go for it. Because like if we rooted our measure of success in winning, only one person wins. Mm-hmm. One. It's like there's no way you can measure success based off that or how much fun you're having. And so for me, it's the enjoyment of watching 60 athletes. Well, I guess it's 40 men, women, teams. I mean, specifically individuals, is like watching them all challenge themselves in ways that are unique. That's fun to watch. Mm-hmm. It's fun to watch the coaches just give everything to those athletes. If we're talking games specifically, it's fun watching the crowd get enthralled with what is happening in the moment. It's fun watching, Adrian Bosman breathe a sigh of relief because one person got the double cross unders. Like those are the fun things. And say when I broadcast is that I want that fun to come through the broadcast. Mm-hmm. I want it to feel like we're both sitting on the couch, drinking a beer and just enjoying what we see. Yeah. And I want people to feel that fun because I do feel that joy. And I feel the fun because it's such a unique opportunity to be in. And I'm so thankful to be a part of that in any way, shape, or form. But to be in that position is so much fun. Mm-hmm. It's so much fun because not only do I get to spectate, because I am a fan, I get to commentate and I get to bring this home to someone watching that maybe won't understand what's going on and get to talk about how fun this whole thing is. This is the cool part of the test. This is a cool part of seeing that athlete succeed. And then maybe that athlete failed, but here's the lesson we learned from their failure. And like all of that and the way it all weaves together from CrossFit Games floor to the Level 1 seminar to the 5 a.m. class at your local affiliate or, the garage fitness fun day on a Saturday, mm-hmm. all tied together. And fun is measured in different ways for different people, just like anything. But I really do feel like at the end of the day, we've been talking about CrossFit and all this. Like I don't think I've said one thing about how to teach someone how to snatch. Mm-mm. That's not it. Yep. those are the things we do.
Yeah.
Like it's so far beyond that.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to articulate that is very important, right? You don't want to, you want to not be able to coach, but like what makes a valuable coach, what makes CrossFit enjoyable, what makes the games exciting to see, like none of that is rooted in a workout or a movement, or like you said, a coaching progression. It's the ability to connect. And I think the way we can connect is unique. Through the only way you can succeed is through hard work. And that is seen and respected and reflected in the gym, CrossFit game stage, whatever. And I think that's where we have that mutual bonding, is that there's a respect known that everybody, maybe not all the time, but everybody has paid the piper once. Right? Everyone's dipped their toe in the land of uncomfortableness. And so there's a level of respect there for everybody. Mm-hmm. It's why the games is so exciting to watch in person. Whether it's seeing people suffer or succeed, everyone knows what that feels like. And that's why it's such a different beast when you're sitting there in the Coliseum or the North Park Stadium and watching people do these incredible feats. I mean, no better example than looking at what happened last year at the Capitol. I think that's the perfect embodiment of what it's like to be in CrossFit, in the community. You know, watching Rebecca Fuselier walk up the stairs, take forever, like that was the ending capstone of the entire process. But watching everything from start to finish of that entire event encapsulated everything that we know and love about CrossFit. Rebecca got last, dead last, dead of the dead last. There was no, like people were on the buses ready to leave, kind of last, and nobody cared. Because I think that is the perfect example of creating a safe place to fail and celebrating that moment like they won the CrossFit Games. And that is what the CrossFit affiliate is like. Nobody likes to get last. Nobody wants to be cheered. Most people don't like being cheered for by other people who are done. It's like, please let me just embarrass myself in the corner alone. I could get it. I've been that person many times. But I think that wraps up the concept of creating a safe place to fail and celebrating that as if you succeeded, because you did. You didn't quit. You didn't give up. You did something that you probably didn't think you could do, and other people's not as well, but nobody wanted you to quit. And that's what we celebrated. And that's the fun of it. You get to see these things be embodied at the games in a way that is hard to articulate. So when the Capitol, like someone saying, hey, what's CrossFit all about? What's it like? And I was like, go watch the Capitol. Mm-hmm. Let's go watch that. And just enjoy it. You don't even have to know what CrossFit is. But by the end of that, you'll get a better concept of what it's like.
Mm-hmm. That's just the perfect summation of all of the different concepts you highlighted and talked about, of encouraging folks to fail and having fun and finding fun in the process, and understanding that like we can all relate to each other a lot more than we think we can because of the effort and the challenge and what we're putting on display, whether it's at the games, whether it's in your local affiliate, you know, on a Tuesday night or whatever that might be. So I just love the threads that have been pulled through of what it looks like to be a great coach and how you can relate to your members and have deeper connections and conversations, figure out their why that really drives home the consistency that CrossFit's all about. And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell one story, one of my favorite ones, about you that highlighted what you just talked about at the games. So I was fortunate enough to be at the games last year. And if I had to pick one moment that was the loudest cheer of the entire weekend, handstand echo bike workout, time cap is coming, and Tim Paulson goes full send on this bike to get it in under the cap. And all of us in the crowd are just screaming our heads off because we know what that's like to try and push that echo bike hard. So we have a little sense of what he's experiencing, and we can't hear you or Sean. And Sean, as amazing of a commentator and so many great calls as he's had over the years, when we got back and we pulled up Instagram and they had that highlight and they had your call on it of like, yes, send it, Tim, send it. I was like, that was probably my favorite call and moment from that weekend. But it's just like you said, like you were having so much fun. You were acting just like all of us in the crowd of like, oh my goodness, this guy is putting it on the line. And it was fun to watch. It was fun to experience. And it was great to have that call to back it up. So I think that was one of my favorite moments that involved you, and appreciate the commentary that you provide. Yeah.
I definitely took the professional broadcaster hat on and put the fan hat on and just said,
at that point you have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, Chase, I want to say thanks so much for taking some time to spend with us on the podcast today. If anyone's interested in wanting to get connected, there's a lot of ways that you're interacting and engaging with the community, whether it's talking about programming or things that are going on in the competitive space, whether it's, you know, your gym or you personally. Like, where can people get connected and find out a little bit more about what you're doing?
Oof. I mean, you can have my CrossFit email address, and you guys can track me down there. It's just chase.ingram@crossfit.com. That's the easiest way to directly get in touch with me for anything. And that's really what I want to be, is I want to be able to be easily accessible for the community at large, for like I said, for whatever it is, whether it's coaching, an affiliate, training, anything that involves this community that we have is a big part of what I want to do. And it stems from the reason why I got into coaching to begin with. And it's the ability to help people do big things for themselves, and how they measure that. So that's the easiest way to get directly in contact with me if you guys want to. And I'll be there behind the keyboard waiting for you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Looking forward to hearing you call some of the upcoming events as the season unfolds here. So thanks so much for being on. And we'll
thanks for having me. This is awesome. Appreciate it.